Now there are certain arguments which have been adduced by some to prove that the world did not always exist, taken from these. For it has been shown that God is the cause of all things, but the cause must precede in duration those things which are affected by the action of the cause. Again, since the whole being was created by God, it cannot be said that it was made from any being, and so it is left that it was made from nothing, and as a result, that he has to be after non-being, still, because it is not infinite to pass. But if the world had always existed, there would already be infinite traversals, because what is past is transgressed. But there are infinite days or cycles of the sun past, if the world ever existed. In addition, it follows that the addition takes place to infinity, when a new is added every day to the past days or cycles. Further, it follows that in efficient causes, it is possible to proceed ad infinitum if generation has always existed, which must be said of the world always existing. For the cause of the Son is the Father, and of the latter another, and so ad infinitum. Again, it follows that they are infinite, namely the immortal souls of infinite past men. But since these reasons do not always necessarily conclude, although they have probability, it is enough to touch only, lest the Catholic faith should be seen to be founded on vain reasons, and not rather on the most solid doctrine of God. And therefore it seems appropriate to state how they are confronted by those who have posited the eternity of the world. For what is said in the first place, that the agent necessarily precedes the effect which is effected by its operation, is true in those things which act something by motion, for there is no effect except in the term of motion. But the agent must also be present when the movement begins. But in those things which act in the instant, this is not necessary, as at the same time, while the sun is at the rising point, it illuminates our hemisphere. What is said also in the second place is not effective. For to him that something is made from something, the contradictory which must be given if this is not given, is not to be made from something, from which it cannot be concluded that it is not done after. What is also stated in the third place is not compelling, for the infinite, even if it does not exist at the same time, can still exist in succession, because thus every infinity received is finite. Therefore, every circulation of the preceding ones could be passed over, because it was finite. But in all things at the same time, if the world had always existed, it would not be possible to accept the first. And so neither is the transition, which always requires two extremes. What is also proposed in the fourth place is weak, for nothing prevents an addition to the infinite from that part which is finite. Now, from the fact that eternal time is posited, it follows that it is infinite on the part before, but finite on the part behind, for the present is the limit of the past. What is also objected to in the fifth does not force, because it is impossible, according to the philosophers, to proceed ad infinitum in causes acting at the same time, because the effect would have to depend on infinite actions existing at the same time. And causes of this kind are infinite in themselves, because their infinity is required for the caused. But in causes not acting at the same time, this is not impossible, according to those who posit perpetual generation. But this happens for infinite reasons, for it happens to Socrates' father that he is another's son or not. But it does not happen to the staff, in so far as it moves the stone, that it is a movement by the hand. For it moves in so far as it is a movement. But what is objected about souls is more difficult. But still the reason is not very useful, because it presupposes many things. For some who posited the eternity of the world held that even human souls are not behind the body. Some, however, say that of all souls nothing remains except the intellect separated, or the agent, according to some, or even possible, according to others. Some, however, posited a circulation in souls, saying that the same souls return to bodies after some centuries. Some, however, do not regard it as inconvenient that there should actually be some infinite things in those things which have no order. But it is possible to proceed more effectively to show this from the end of the divine will, as touched upon above. For the end of the divine will in the production of things is its goodness insofar as it is manifested by the causes. But the divine virtue and goodness are most clearly manifested by the fact that other things have not always existed apart from him. For from this it is plainly shown that things other than himself have their being from him, because they have not always been. It is also shown that he does not act by the necessity of nature, and that his virtue is infinite in action. This, therefore, was most convenient for the divine goodness, to give the beginning of duration to created things. From what has been said, we can avoid the various errors of the Gentile philosophers. Some of them held that the world was eternal. Some, the eternal matter of the world from which the world began to be generated from some time, or by chance, or from some understanding, or even love or litigation. For by all these things are posited something other than the eternal God. That is contrary to the Catholic faith.